Elon Musk is back to weaponizing his social media company against South Africa, where he has strategic interest. In a renewed attack against South Africa, the US military contractor claimed that Starlink, which is funded by the US government, is not allowed to operate in South Africa simply because it is not black. That quite simply is a lie. When you examine the context of the statement, it also turns out to be a deeply racist remark.
That's exactly what Elon Musk says is happening to Starlink in South Africa. But here's what he's not telling you. This isn't just a story about satellites or billionaires. This is a story about power, history, and about who gets to own the future and who gets left out of it. Let's start with the facts on the ground. South Africa has one of the most unequal internet landscapes in the world. In rural areas, only about 1.7% of households have reliable internet access. Think about that. In 2025, in a country with a G20 economy, the majority of rural citizens are effectively offline. For Starlink, this isn't just a humanitarian opportunity, it is a massive commercial one. Starlink doesn't need fiber, it doesn't need towers, it beams internet directly from low Earth orbit satellites straight to a dish on your roof. That makes it perfectly designed for exactly the kind of terrain South Africa has: vast, rural, and underserved. So why isn't it not there? The answer comes down to one acronym: B-BBEE, Broad-Based Black Economic Empowerment. Under South Africa's Electronic Communications Act, any company that wants a telecommunications license must have at least 30% ownership by what the law calls historically disadvantaged groups: Black South Africans, Coloureds, Indians, women, and people with disabilities. Now, before you react, understand why this law exists. South Africa didn't just have poverty, it had apartheid, a state-engineered system of racial segregation that for decades stripped Black South Africans of land, capital, ownership, and economic participation. B-BBEE isn't a preference policy, it's a corrective one. It's the government saying the economy was deliberately built to exclude you, and we're going to deliberately rebuild it to include you. That's the law Starlink is being asked to comply with. The barrier is legal. South Africa requires telecom companies to follow rules under the Electronic Communications Act enforced by ICASA. These rules align with broad-based black economic empowerment. Here is the key requirement. If you want a telecom license, at least 30% of your local entity must be owned by historically disadvantaged groups. That includes Black South Africans, Coloureds, Indians, women, and people with disability. This policy exists because of apartheid. For decades, the majority of the population was locked out of ownership and economic participation. This is an attempt to change that.
What is it about black folks that y'all don't like? The fact that we are black and proud? We love living in...
They're coming to create regime change. The white people realize they cannot take it through a ballot, and they are now engaged in illegal, unconstitutional method to destabilize this country so that eventually they can take it over. We've got a lot of strategic minerals that are needed by America and everybody else, including Elon Musk, who is involved in business. And therefore the government that is saving today, it is not saving in their best interest. They will never cooperate with that government. If anything, they are going to try and collapse that government. We are not opposed to network connectivity. We are the ones who fought for data not to expire, time not to expire. The more we broaden our network, the better, especially for the rural community, which is still voting for the ANC, is not exposed to a lot of information as to how corrupt these people are. But we cannot have a network that is going to be policing us, operated by Mossad to monitor our activities and to instigate insurrection inside our country. We shouldn't allow that, and we must never be blackmailed not to follow our laws. Our laws are not racist or are not discriminatory. Are simply saying, let's pull those ones who are left behind to come and be at the same level with us. The BEE is not going to be a permanent feature. We're just using it as an intervening method to address the historical imbalances. Once that is achieved, we can have a conversation about, do we really need this law? Because now our people are at the point where they can equally compete with their counterparts without being disadvantaged by the fact that they are not exposed or they do not have the necessary resources to compete, as it were, at that level. So I think it's something that all of us, we must put our political differences aside and say, Musk, as long as he's not compliant to the laws of South Africa, he must never be allowed to enter here, and no special law must be made for Elon Musk.
Elon Musk did not respond quietly. On his platform X, he called South Africa's regulations racial laws. He used the phrase Apartheid 2.0. He claimed that officials had asked him for bribes to operate in the country. These are strong accusations, explosive language, and they landed exactly where he intended, in the court of global public opinion. But let's apply some pressure to each one. The bribery claim. South African officials have flatly denied it, pointing out that Starlink never even completed a formal licensing application. There was no formal process in which conversations could have occurred. The Apartheid 2.0 comparison? Historians and policy analysts have rejected this across the board. Apartheid was a system of enforced racial violence, exclusion, and dispossession backed by the state. B-BBEE is a policy designed to reverse those outcomes. Calling them equivalent is not just inaccurate, it's a deliberate rhetorical move. And racial laws? Every major tech company operating in South Africa, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, has structured their operations to comply with B-BBEE requirements. Starlink is an exception, not the rule. Musk says these are racial laws and claims Starlink is being denied access. The government says something different. They say Starlink has not even completed the application process. No applications means no rejection. So this is not a ban, it is a refusal to comply. That is a critical distinction. This is where it gets interesting. Musk has a global pattern. He pushes back against regulation in multiple countries. So the question is simple. Is he taking a stand on principle or trying to force a special exception? If South Africa bans the rule for Starlink, it sets a precedent. Other companies could demand the same. Here is the part many people miss. Major companies like Google, Microsoft, and Amazon, as I've indicated, already operate in South Africa. They comply with these policies. They found ways to structure their businesses within the system. And Starlink has not done that. That makes this case stand out.
First of all, you should be questioning why the racist laws in South Africa. That's the first problem. That's what you should be attacking. It's improper for there to be racist laws in South Africa. The whole idea with what Nelson Mandela, who was a great man, proposed was that all races should be on an equal footing in South Africa. That's the right thing to do, not to replace one set of racist laws with another set of racist laws, which is utterly wrong and improper. So that's the deal, that all races should be treated equally, and there should be no preference given to one or the other. Whereas there are now 140 laws in South Africa that give that basically give strong preference to if you're a black South African, and not otherwise. And so now I'm in this absurd situation where I was born in South Africa but cannot get a license to operate in Starlink because I'm not black.
Now here's where it gets personal and important. Elon Musk was born in Pretoria, South Africa in 1971. He grew up during apartheid, and his family, by most documented accounts, was not struggling. His father, Errol Musk, has spoken publicly about owning an interest in a Zambian emerald mine. He described a life with multiple homes, a private plane, and a yacht. Elon Musk has disputed details of this in recent years, but the broader picture that he grew up with significant privilege in a country where that privilege was partly engineered by race is well documented. Why does this matter? Because Musk is now challenging a policy designed to correct the very system that benefited people in his position. He is questioning redistribution while rarely, if ever, publicly acknowledging the advantages that redistribution is designed to address. That silence has weight. It doesn't disqualify his argument, but it does shape how the argument lands and who it serves. Let's be honest about what this is really about. Musk has a consistent pattern across every market he enters of resisting regulatory frameworks. His approach is often the same: go public, apply pressure, attempt to reshape the rules from the outside. In South Africa, the potential objective seems clear: secure an exemption, and if you get one, you set a precedent. A precedent that says global tech giants don't have to follow local ownership rules. That's not just about Starlink. That's about every future platform, every future infrastructure deal in every developing economy that tries to protect its own people's stake in their economic future. South Africa's government has actually offered a workaround equity equivalent programs, which allow foreign companies to meet transformation requirements through investment in local development rather than direct equity transfer. Starlink has not pursued this route, so the door is not locked, but Musk doesn't want to walk through it in those terms. Here's my honest read on this. Both sides have a point, and both sides have a blind spot. South Africa is right to defend its right to shape its own economy. A country that endured systemic exclusion for decades should have policies that demand meaningful local participation from those who want to profit within its borders. That's not protectionism, that's sovereignty. But South Africa also needs to ask, is the current implementation of B-BBEE actually achieving redistribution, or is it primarily protecting a small black elite while leaving the same rural communities disconnected? Because if millions of South Africans remain offline while a compliance dispute drags on, nobody wins. And Musk, he's right that access matters. He's right that satellite internet could be transformative in rural Africa. But framing a redistribution policy as racism in a country still living with the economic legacy of actual racism is not a good faith argument. It's a rhetorical weapon, and it undermines whatever genuine case he might have. If Musk truly cares about his country of birth, the path isn't to wage a public war against its laws. It's to engage, comply, invest in the local ecosystem, and let the technology speak for itself. This is not just about internet access, it is about control over economic rules. South Africa is trying to reshape its economy after decades of exclusion. Musk is trying to expand a global system without local ownership constraints. Both positions make sense on their own, but they clash in practice. This debate is far from over, and what happens next could shape how global companies enter developing markets going forward.
Elon Musk. Elon Musk owns an internet company called Starlink. He wants the South African government to permit Starlink to operate in South Africa. The South African government said, sure, you're welcome to, so long as you comply with our business laws relating to multinational companies like everybody else does. Elon got very upset and posted, quote, Starlink is not allowed to operate in South Africa because I'm not black. That is what we in the world call a lie. That's cuckafoot. Many multinational companies without black owners and CEOs operate in South Africa, including Microsoft, which, by the way, has complied with our laws, secured a great B-BBEE rating, and literally just last week announced a new 5.4 billion rand investment into South Africa to expand its cloud and AI infrastructure in the country. This is on top of Microsoft spending 20 billion rand to open data centers in Johannesburg and Cape Town over the last few years. Satya Nadella is Microsoft's CEO, and you'll never believe this, Elon, he's not black. Elon is lying, but I don't even need you to tell me that, and this is the most embarrassing part. Elon's own AI called him a liar too, friends. Grok, the Twitter AI, was asked in a tweet why Starlink can't operate in South Africa, and it wrote, quote, Elon Musk, born in South Africa, faces regulatory hurdles with Starlink there due to licensing agreements, mandating 30% ownership by historically disadvantaged groups, as per South Africa's black economic empowerment policies. This isn't about Musk's race, but compliance with local laws.
The standoff between Elon Musk and South Africa isn't resolved, and it won't be until someone decides that access to the future matters more than winning an argument. The people who need Starlink the most, the rural communities, the students, the small business owners in areas with no fiber and no signal, they are not in the negotiating room. They're just waiting. The question is whether the most powerful man, the most richest man on earth, is willing to play by the rules of the country he says he loves. Or really, does he love South Africa? If this story made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop your take in the comments and subscribe, because the stories that matter really make the front page.
Well, hey, government, we help you and you help us.
And they have the racism too.
Yeah, and I think, for instance, when you talk about ideologies, if you look at Elon's plight against South Africa, again, I'm not sure this is perfect, but I saw it start when he wasn't able to launch Starlink in South Africa, because in South Africa, the government says they want to make sure that you have minority ownership when you launch a company. And the reason the government did this, and they haven't done it perfectly, by the way, I'm never going to say it's the poster child, but what they were trying to do is they were going, guys, we've learned that money gets closed off. So if we don't make sure that companies have representation in terms of who owns the companies, the money's never going to go anywhere.
And when you say minority ownership, South Africa's a black majority.
Yes.
So
no, what I mean is now what we say minority here. So I'm saying black, people of color. People of color.
So that explains the anti-DEI thing he has.
Exactly.
He's just like, oh, the plane crash.
So Elon, I think there went, you're not going to let me open this. And not only did they not let him, they then banned Starlink. And then now Starlink, you can't use it inside, even though it's a satellite thing, they don't enable it in South Africa. And I think Elon now again was personally, he was like, oh, I'm going to find a way to break this system. And one thing I've heard about Elon from everyone who's worked in and around his orbit is he is supremely talented at finding the right lever to pull, and he will pull it. It doesn't matter what he's trying to do, but Elon will go, oh, that's the lever. I need to get people working harder. That's the lever. I need to get these people doing this. That's the lever. To start businesses that break things and don't follow the rules. What do you need? You need the people who make the rules to lose some of their power. What's the best way to get those people to lose some of their power? You find the people who are the least happy. You find the people who have the most hate fomenting. And you encourage that, and you grow it, and you nestle. And so if essentially, I love that you said it in the beginning with Peter Thiel. These guys are essentially investing in disruptors all around the world.
They're very opportunistic.
They're seed funding everywhere. They're using the same principles of money. They go, Christiana, tell me about your movement. Huh? You believe that governments shouldn't exist?
You know